my name is Grace and welcome to this episode of Gracie, Kenyan Diaspora and Returnee. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're so glad that you've joined us. This podcast is a forum for discussing everything diaspora and life as a returnee. Today, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Mukami. She is a former diaspora and current returnee. She grew up in Canada, and it would be good for us to just learn about what it's like growing up in the diaspora. So welcome, Mukami. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome. I know we've had so many years of discussing this. You grew up in Canada. You went there as a kid. Why don't you tell us about that? How old were you? Where did you go? Why?
Okay. So my family and I, so my mom, my sisters, we actually reunited with my father in Toronto. No, not in Toronto, actually, in London, Ontario, in 1989, I want to say, 1988, 1989. So I went when I was about 9 years old. I was the oldest of 4 children. And for political reasons, my father had to leave the country, and we were reunited about a few years afterwards. So it was an interesting time, a real shock. I think we landed just as it was getting cold, and it was, as a child, everything was different.
Yeah.
So it was really eye-opening and mind-boggling.
Yeah, I can imagine, and especially it sounds like you were not going, people often go for study, for work. For you guys, you were going for political reasons.
Yeah.
So almost forced to leave out of the country.
Yeah, I wasn't, back then we didn't even ask kids what they wanted.
Yeah.
So it wasn't my choice to leave. But,
Yeah.
it was good to be reunited with my dad, and it was, an adventure, and it was really fascinating.
Yeah. And you've mentioned that you were the firstborn. You were about 9 years old. How old were your other siblings?
The middle one was maybe 6, and then the last born were about 2 or 3, I think.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what was it like?
It was really interesting. There's so many things that are different, or at least were different at that time in the late 80s. We went from, a mansionette in Donholm to an apartment in a block of apartments in London, Ontario. It was, it's crazy, riding elevators and things like this.
Yeah.
So many people with different skin colors. It was really interesting. We were like some of the few Black children in the elementary school that we went to. I think there were only like 2 other families or something like that. So it was really different. But what I liked about at least the neighborhood we went in is that there were a lot of newcomers. So there were people from El Salvador, from Nicaragua, from Poland. So all of us kind of shared that in common, in that we went home. There was a different language spoken at home.
Right.
There was different food eaten at home.
Yeah.
There was like home society,
Yeah.
and then there was, the outside world. So we at least had that in common, even though we all went and spoke a different language at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really different.
Yeah. How was it transitioning in school, like from primary school here, as we used to call it, to elementary school? Tell us about that, just the school life.
It was crazy. I'll never forget the very first day of school.
Yeah.
I was in class 4 here, I think, maybe 5, and then I went there and I was in class 4, and my dad walks me to the school. I don't know anybody. I'm put into a room and I'm just left.
Oh, wow.
And
with foreigners who are white looking.
Yeah, and you don't know anybody, and you're like, is he coming back? What's happening, right?
Yeah.
And we're not wearing uniforms, where we used to wear uniforms here.
Oh, yeah.
And what I remember, the good thing about childhood is like people make friends very easily, but I'll never forget, like they used to play with Legos in class
already.
4. And in Kenya, we were learning like the anatomy of insects.
Yes.
So I was like, what is this, baby class? What's happening here? But it's, now as an adult, that people learn differently. But it was so weird.
Yes.
Because I felt like we're playing, we're learning.
Yeah.
And then we had like days where we had hot dogs for lunch and pizza day for lunch in school.
Yeah.
It was very different. Because, in Kenya, in class 4, you still have to focus, you have to study.
Yeah. We're doing the mathematical tables by that time.
There was none of that.
Yes.
But what's interesting about that school system is that you still catch up.
Right.
You still, by the time you're entering high school or Form 1, you still have everything.
Yeah.
You're just learning it differently. Yeah. So I remember playing a lot with Legos. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it was really fascinating.
Yeah. My brother moved to the Netherlands recently. And for the first week of school, I was there with them, and I was taking the nephews to school and picking them up. And I remember the youngest one, every time I'd ask him how was school, he was like, it's so nice. He just said it was nice. We were just playing. We played all day.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, really? You played all day in school at your age? But again, it's just a different way of learning.
It's play-based learning, right?
Yeah.
And there actually are different ways of learning, and this is one of the ways. But it was just, when you come from such a books and studying and, what order are you? I was never the top student. Top 10 I don't think was ever in my radar. Yeah. But at least I wasn't the worst. But there's always that anxiety even as a small kid. And then you go there and there's none of that. There's no ranking, there's no orders. You just pass to the next class and that's it. So it was really interesting. Another thing was, like in the winters, I was just telling somebody the other day, we used to go for like PE. We would go ice skating. We would go snowshoeing.
That was your PE.
Yeah. What's it called? The other skiing, cross-country skiing.
Oh, yes.
I mean, there's lots of snow. So, so we did all these things.
Oh, gosh. I never thought of that. And I actually didn't know that about diaspora kids.
Yeah.
I do recognize Canada is cold, but like that was your version of PE. Ours was wearing uniforms and running in a field. Sometimes the grass is patchy, other times there's no grass.
Exactly.
And competing. I think the Kenyan system, it was the 844 system back then, is very competitive because classroom we were studying, and then now PE we were also, and competing rather, and then also in PE we were competing. So
or maybe we did. I just didn't
pay
attention. It was just
the number didn't matter to you.
There was just a lot of fun and a lot of like new experiences, which I think are so important for kids to learn and to just know. I mean, I can't ice skate for the life of me right now. Yeah, but I did as a kid. You know, and it's what I like about that place is that your children are exposed to so many more different things. One of the things I've never seen in a school abroad, from my experience, has been swimming, which is what like every Kenyan.
Yes, in fact, going to a school with a swimming pool was a cool thing. Not all schools have swimming pools.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's too cold to have outdoor swimming pools. It just doesn't happen. You have to go to the rec center. Yeah. But what we did have, we made use of. And we had a lot of snow, a lot of baseball. And all those things we did. Yeah, just craziness. But it's so good for children because you explore so many things without the pressure of competition.
It's true. Yeah. And then just getting to know early on what you like and what you don't like.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So did you and your sisters go to the same school?
We did. Okay. We did. And I think that was also a bit different because I also had to be their guardian, their caretaker. And so when they would get bullied, it was me. Yes. I had to come to the rescue. And it was my job to beat up the other kids. Right. My siblings. But it was good. I mean, I had to make sure like at the end of the day they're all there and that we all go home together. And what was different about back then that I think has also changed with just worldwide parenting now is we were what were called latchkey kids. None of our parents were at home when we got home. Yes. So all of us had to get ourselves home, lock the door behind us, and either start our homework, find a snack, and wait until our parents came home, maybe 6 o'clock, 7 p.m. And that was how all the way up until high school. Kids are very independent there because you have to figure it out for yourself. If you're hungry, go to the fridge and get something. Right. Yeah. The first time you told me about latchkey, I had never heard about it. And I know it's the concept of latching the door, like locking the door. I never heard about it. And it's also interesting to know that you were growing up quicker than us who are at home because, in Kenya, for example, because we had nannies, for me personally, I was dropped off in school, I was picked up by my parents, and when we went home, we had a nanny, 4 o'clock tea and bread was set out for us. They set out our, school uniform and everything. We really didn't have to do much other than our homework. That was it. That's sounds like heaven. Yeah, we didn't have any of that. You find your own clothes in the morning, you get yourself to the bus stop, sometimes you figure out your own breakfast, your parents will probably pack your lunch, or, but you have to eat very quickly because you have to catch a bus at a certain time. And when you get home, it's you guys, so there are a lot of memes online about like your mother will call you and say, take out the chicken to defrost it for dinner.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
As a kid.
But I was by 10, I think I was preparing like simple meals. I mean, that's also the good thing about fast food abroad, is that you can like frozen things.
Yeah.
But we have to feed my siblings, they're hungry, you know. So I was cooking for the family, I was making sure everyone is eaten, is doing their homework. It's also interesting because I think at that time it was illegal to leave your children at home.
I was going to ask you, where was social services at that time?
So all of us had to lie. All of us kids in the whole compound, in the whole estate. And that was the thing, if anybody knocked on the door, you had to say, my mom's in the shower.
Oh, right. You kind of opened the door.
All of us are at home, you know. There was no like internet like there is now, you know. So all of us like went at home, and we all understood like the door is locked until your parents get home. It was, you know, it's a bit of a risk, but then you also learn independence. You learn how to even entertain yourself. Right? As a kid, because you just have to figure it out for yourself.
I remember you told me that you'd also make sure the blinds were closed and you didn't answer the phone. Just in case someone, you know, asked where your parents.
Those were wild times. I don't think we have those anymore. But you know what? It teaches you by age 12. Everybody, like in my house, could like cook or make something. But they wouldn't starve. They knew how to get themselves in the house, how to take care of them for 3 hours. Now I have friends who have children, and they say, oh, you know, my child is hungry. I'm like, and?
Right.
So there's a fridge.
Right.
You know, but it's a different type of parenting now as it was back then.
But I'm just thinking, thank God for chicken nuggets, frozen chicken nuggets, fish fingers,
oh God, how
hot pockets, like all those microwavable things. Thank God for them, because I don't know what you'd be doing.
And that's what they serve, right? They serve to nourish people who don't know how to cook, who are at home. And you know, and even like television programming was for children from maybe 4 o'clock to 6, because they knew that we were all at home.
Right.
So we watch TV, you try to do your homework, you fight with your siblings.
The makeup before the parents come home.
Exactly, But you grow up quite kind of independent, and you're not waiting for someone. You know, I remember in Kenya, you sit at the table, there's a cup of tea, you have to take the tea. Everything is kind of, you just show up and it's programmed. But there you're kind of let loose. From a very young age. You just kind of let loose and you figure yourself out.
Our nanny used to bring the food to the table and then take it away until a certain age. Then we started doing it for ourselves. And I do realize I grew up in Nairobi, but still there's that aspect of having the better life.
Exactly.
So I take it both your parents were working?
Yes. Yes. When my parents went there, you know, they had to start from scratch because, you know, I believe we were refugees. So they had to get whatever jobs they could. My dad, I think, was a dishwasher when he first got there. And these are people who, you know, had really good jobs here. What changed for us is that they decided to go back to school and get master's degrees. So get local education. Because one of the things that people, I think, don't realize is that it doesn't matter what people you have from Kenya. When you go abroad, they don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. So you have to get new ones if you want to kind of get to that same level of society. So they were really, really busy because they were in school, they were working. And so I was really the mini parent in the house, taking care of my sister as well. My parents did that.
I remember you've also told me there's a job your dad had, and he would drive hours one way and have to come back. And in the winter, sometimes it would even take longer.
It was crazy. He got, because when he was doing his master's, he was doing it in Toronto, which is about 2.5, 3 hours away from London where we were living. And so because it's a full-time program, there was no distance learning back then.
Again, how far was it?
2.5, 3 hours.
One way?
Wow. So he actually had to live in Toronto for the week and come back on the weekends because it was just not sustainable. And what people don't know about Canada is that the winters are insane. We're talking about a foot of snow. And when you drive in that weather, you have to drive so slowly. Because you just see cars in the ditch, you know, there's black ice. If you've ever lived anywhere cold, you know that risk, and he would take that risk. And every Saturday we would just like wake up and he's there. You know, but it was a lot. My parents sacrificed a lot.
Yes, it's very humbling too when you've had a corporate job here and you go there and you're starting from scratch. And now you have kids and 2 households, because really he's having to pay rent wherever he is during the week.
Exactly, I think one of the things that people don't realize is and I always tell people who want to move abroad is this idea of everybody thinks about the money that is there abroad, but they forget about a lot of the privileges they have here.
Yes.
Seniority in a company is a privilege.
Yes.
People who know you is a privilege. People who don't question your ideas is a privilege.
Yes.
You know, I remember telling my aunt once, I told her, you know, if you go abroad, you'll have to work for someone your daughter's age. Can you take orders from someone half your age?
Yeah.
you know, there's so many challenges.
Yeah, it's so funny we're having this conversation because at work yesterday, I was talking with a branch manager of a certain branch, and she asked me, so why did you come back? And she mentioned she would like to go. And the first thing I asked her is, are you married? Do you have kids? How old are they? And I said, you know, here you're a branch manager, but when you go there, if you want to stay in banking, don't expect that you will start as a branch manager. And I told her, you're black, a foreigner with an accent. Your minority.
Tell her you might not get.
You are really starting from scratch. And I also told her, same thing you said, I did my undergrad here in Daystar. I had good grades. When I went on the other side, the US, my first semester, I was repeating accounting and finance classes. And I say the difference is people who go to USIU and go abroad may have a better privilege because there is USIU San Diego. But for us, I had to redo those classes. So you've just said it and I've remembered.
It's very humbling. And a lot of people don't prepare themselves psychologically for that part. That you're really, you know, because even when you think about starting from scratch in Kenya, you don't really conceptualize like your first job.
Right.
Yeah. Like, remember when you were an intern? That's where you're going back to. And I always say that there's an age at which you can go abroad and still adjust.
Yeah.
But I always recommend that if people are even over 40, it's very hard to make that adjustment.
It's so hard.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult to swallow your pride.
Yeah, your bosses are truly in their 20s.
In their 20s, yeah.
They're hearing your accent.
And they're not hearing you.
And they're not hearing you. In fact, your accent to them makes them think you're illiterate or you're just not smart.
Yeah.
Incompetent is the word. Yeah. So, well, that must have been hard. And then your mom was then working in London or nearby?
Yeah. She was working. She had been a lawyer in Kenya. She was running her own private practice. So and you can't just go and be a lawyer in another country.
Yes.
So she had to get whatever job she could get. She ended up in social services and started her own thing because I think she realized quite quickly that she was just never going to get the control of the power, the work environment that she wanted.
Yeah.
In working for somebody else, because it's true, they're seeing your gender, they're seeing your skin color, they're hearing your accent.
Yeah.
They just don't think you're capable of doing what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So when did you personally start working? At what age?
My first job, my first actually getting a paycheck job was when I was 12.
What?
Yeah.
They were allowing that in the US, in Canada?
Yeah. So it's okay. There's like a little loophole.
Okay.
So we used to have these things called the penny savers, and these are these weekend newspapers. I don't know, classifieds almost. I don't even remember what they are.
Okay.
But they're delivered every Sunday. They're Saturday or the weekend. They're free, but they need people to deliver them because they're delivered house to house. And so they just have this model where anyone, no age limit, you can sign up to deliver them. And what they do is they bring 300 newspapers to your house at 5 a.m. or something. You have to bag them.
Yes.
And there's freebies because sometimes there's samples of products, whatever. You have to include them. You bag. You put them all in your car or your bike, or wherever, and then you go and you drop them door to door to door. And you make nothing. I mean, but you earn something. Right?
Yes.
And I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm 12. I'm watching TV anyway. Let me start making some money.
Yeah.
And that's truthfully, what ends up happening is your parents end up doing this job.
The job. Of course, I was actually going to ask you how you were doing it. Were you riding a bike and what do you do in the winter?
Because it's 300 newspapers. You can't carry them on your back, right?
True.
So they end up driving you. I don't know about that business model now. But but that's the first thing. And it was, it was overwhelming and it was such a big responsibility. But my family's always encouraged working and being independent and financial independence. So I took to it and I loved it. I actually enjoyed it. I think my other sister did it after me, but it was, it was where you first start, you have this giant pile of newspapers in your house and can't even keep them. We don't have fireplaces.
Right.
You have to.
You just have
them.
to deliver them.
You have
It
to.
became the Saturday thing to do, I guess.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's good for developing kind of responsibility at that age.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously you transitioned after university. You went into a career now.
Yeah, but actually, even throughout high school, I had other jobs. So the good thing about the West, especially, is that they have a whole industry of part-time jobs. So 3 hours a shift, 4 hours a shift. You don't earn a lot of money, but you earn enough to buy yourself as a teenager what you want.
Right. Go to the mall and have money to spend.
So you have money to spend. And that's really the point of it, you know?
It's
So
true.
I always had jobs where either in the summer, because remember school there has like a 2-month break in the summer, so you need to occupy your time to just sit at home.
Yeah.
So I always had jobs where, after school, because school closes at around 3:30, by 4:30 you're at home.
Yeah.
You literally just go to work.
Yeah.
Go get on a bus, you go to a job, and you work until 10.
Yeah.
And then you go home, and now you do your homework, and you do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
But at the end of every 2 weeks, you get a paycheck, and then you can save the money. You can save it for university. You can buy yourself the Nintendo you want. You know, it was before cell phones. So
right.
Right now, people are buying iPhones.
iPhones, yes.
It again, what I love about that concept is that from very early on, you learn personal responsibility.
True.
If you don't show up to work, you get fired.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Your parents don't even care. It's not about your parents. It's about you.
It's true. And work ethic there is so strict. I mean, it's something that people
have to show
learn.
up on time.
Yeah.
You have to organize a bus schedule.
Yes.
Because you're not even driving.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You have to know which bus or what time.
Yeah.
And if you're changing buses.
Exactly.
You're right. And the buses don't wait either.
They don't wait.
And they're on a timetable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to get yourself to work. You have to get yourself home. You have to figure all of that out. But it teaches you to take these things seriously from such an early age. So I think at 14 is when maybe 14, 15 is when I started working. And it teaches you that responsibility and that it's all on you.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens is that then your parents also cut you off.
Right.
Now you're working.
Yes.
So you want that dress? Go buy it. So you have money.
Yes. And I remember, at least from my friends and relatives who have kids abroad, you're not even working because necessarily the parents are broke. It's even what the kids want to do.
Yeah.
You want to start buying things for yourself. You want to go to the mall. Sometimes for the guys, they're saving up to buy a vehicle for their first car.
Exactly.
You know, the parents will top up, so you want to contribute.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's you also hang out. It's a lot of teenagers also at the job.
Yes.
So you're also seeing your friends.
Right.
So it's not really work.
Yeah, it's not work.
The jobs are they're not. I wouldn't say that they're low skilled, but they tend to be repetitive, or it's retail, it's food service.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of hanging out with your friends for 3 hours and making some money.
Right.
In the meantime, you're just doing the work, but you're really actually just there to kind of hang out with your friends, make a little money, go home. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. As you start concluding, what would you say you liked and didn't like about growing up in the diaspora?
I liked the level of independence, right? That is there. I really enjoyed the kind of freedom you have to build your own identity, to figure out who you are as a person, and to just chart your own path from especially your teenage years. By the time you're 20, you've already started having these thoughts. You've already kind of figured out you're on your journey. You're not starting your journey. You're on your journey.
Yeah.
What I didn't like, I would say the racism is obviously a really, really big thing.
Yeah.
As you're searching for identity, as you're searching for who you are, not seeing yourself.
Yes.
You know, that's one of the reasons I came back, is that this is a country where people on TV look like me, people in billboards look like me, so you just never see yourself.
Yeah. So there's a conflict between getting to discover myself versus I can't be authentic because sometimes I'm judged because of my skin color.
Exactly. Yeah. And also you just don't, you're trying to figure out who am I, and so the society's telling you the only people we recognize are skinny blonde women and tall blonde men. There's no avenue for you, especially for Black women, right? For a Black man, you could be an athlete.
Yeah.
Right. Tall.
By the way, that's true.
Yeah, you could be an athlete.
Yes.
But for Black women, there really isn't anything. Like who who do you be when you're trying to figure out who do I want to be?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So this was all before social media, where now you can at least figure it out, but easier. You can see different representation.
Yeah.
But back then, there's nothing.
Yeah. Oh, I had not thought of that, but you're right. At least, we can say with the black men, they're either in basketball or football.
Yeah.
The ladies, there's really... Yeah,
like,
there's no representation. I'm actually
Beyonce.
Struggling to think. Yes,
like, it's literally
yes.
like Beyonce.
Yes,
and that's like I have
it.
nothing in common with Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sing. I don't want to entertain. There's so few like representations that are universal, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a big challenge when you're trying to ask yourself as a young girl, am I pretty? Am I smart? Are there women like me elsewhere? And also as being like the firstborn, I didn't have people who had gone before me who can say this is the path.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't know anyone who'd like gone to university who looks like me. Not because they're not there. I was the oldest in my family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just not having that group of people who can show you that these are the possibilities. Yeah.
Did you struggle with, already you are black, but then also you are a foreigner. So at home, there are certain cultures being instilled, but they're different on the streets for, let's say, the black Canadians. Was that ever a struggle or not so much?
It wasn't so much for me, because I was always so hyper aware that I've always been very aware that I'm not, like whatever stereotype you have, I'm not it, right? So in Canada, there's a very strong Caribbean. The black Canadians it's very rooted in like Caribbean identity, and Caribbean background.
Yes,
and I'm not from the Caribbean.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pretend.
Right.
I can't be. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So it was not as much of a struggle for me, but I've always never had a problem being an outsider.
Right.
I have a lot of friends who really struggled with that.
Yes.
Because then the type you're supposed to be is like a Caribbean teenager.
Right.
And
now you compete with that. You want to dress like that. You want to dance like them. You want to listen to their music. You're preferring their food more than yours.
Yeah.
It's truly an identity crisis.
It's a big identity crisis. And it was, back then, there were just so few Africans that were not in your like actual community.
Yes.
You knew the ones around you, like your either what you call your aunts or uncles, your parents' friends. But there wasn't social media where you could connect with like another African girl in Illinois, right?
Yes.
And you'd be like, oh, we're living the same life.
Right.
It wasn't like that. It was like your quote unquote family, and
that's it.
That's it. Yeah. So it was really hard to see that. Oh, like what does even being an African abroad mean?
Yeah. What does that look like?
We had nothing. It was just what your parents tell you. Go to school, work hard, get a job.
Yeah, that's it.
And then, it was just that.
And not forgetting that your parents had grown up maybe in a rural setting. So that is also challenging.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is, when adults go abroad, they've already set their identity. My parents know that they're Kenyan. They're proud to be Kenyan. They are Kenyans abroad.
Yeah.
But when now they're raising Canadian children, it's a huge challenge because they think that the kids just know how they grew up and have the same shared values and all of this, and it's not the case at all.
Yeah.
They completely forget. They're so busy working and supporting the family and all of this that they just don't actually pay attention to the fact that their children are developing a whole different identity.
Because you are a Canadian child, truly,
Yeah.
So looking back, with all your experience and everything, what would you like to share with other kids growing up in the diaspora?
I think what I would like to tell your kids is that it's going to be all right. I think there's a lot of, what I love about social media these days is that you can actually connect and see that you're not the only one. I remember once, about maybe less than 10 years ago, I was driving in Ontario and I went to this small town. I think I went to the gas station, like really, really small town. These villages, these like white, very white villages. And there was this black girl working at the counter. And I just identified with her because I was like, I see you. I know what you're going through. Like, I know you're probably the only black family in your school. You're I could like tell by her hair. I'm like, there's no one here who knows how to do your hair. Like, there's the struggles, right? And I was like, I see you. Please don't try to fit in. You can just be by yourself and you can connect with the other only black girls
Yes.
in their own little small towns.
Yeah.
Because I know I could get it. I was like, I'm sure your parents either just moved there because that's where a job was.
Right.
They never thought about like integration, and they don't care because they're there for financial reasons. But you're growing up there, so you're like,
There was no discussion. Let's move to this white town. What do you all think? No,
and so
moving.
the parents are there because they just go to work, but you live there. These are your friends. This is your culture now, right? So it's really, really hard. But I think I would tell anyone who's going through that it's like, it's going to be okay. You make it in the end.
Yeah. And what would you like to share with the parents, adult parents, foreigners who are going abroad to study, to work, whatever, and they have kids?
I think the most important lesson that I would tell them is that you are not raising African children. You're not. And that's, you need to understand that the culture of the place that you have moved into is a culture your children will grow up in. And you cannot protect your children from that culture. So you're not raising them. Don't try to ignore it.
Yes.
Don't try to say, oh no, in my house we do this. You can retain some elements of your culture, but that society is their society now. It might not be yours, but it's theirs.
That is so deep. Oh God. I can almost want to be in denial. Because, if you're Kenyan, you're patriotic. There are certain values you learn here that you don't learn on the other side. We often don't talk. Actually, we rarely talk back to elders, whether they are our parents or not. Then you go on the other side and you see kids who are talking back to their parents. I have friends who, when they were young, they threatened their parents that they'd call the cops on them for wanting to beat them, which is a thing that we do here. So I can't imagine that. So they are not raising African children.
You're not raising African children. You have to be very intentional, and as hard as you're working to catch up in that society to earn money, you need to understand that you're not raising African children. If you want those values passed on, you have to do it. Because I think, here, your aunts, your uncles, and neighbors can pass on. If your child is screaming outside, someone will correct that child.
It's true.
No, it's an individual society.
They'll
call the cops.
It's true.
They'll call the cops,
So
you need to understand that those things where you could say, oh, society will teach them. Here, we go to church and we learn a lot of like morality and values through church. There might not be a church there that's doing that.
It's true.
Right? So you're raising children of that society, and you can't just dismiss it the way your brain says, I'm just here, I'm not taking any of this. That child is forming an identity from that society.
Wow. All right. How long have you been back home? Well, this is home. How long have you been back to Kenya?
I've been in Kenya now, let's say, just over 9 years. So next year will be my 10th year anniversary.
Yay!
Yeah.
We look forward to bringing you on to tell us about your returning experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching. We'd also like to hear your experiences, whether you're in the diaspora or you've returned back home. So feel free to send us a message, and have a great day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Thanks.